coming to do this interview. So tell us about yourself and the reason why you decided to come to Japan.
Okay, so my name is Antonín and I come from Czech Republic, which is in the middle of Europe, and the reason why I came to Japan is more complicated. So let me say first that I'm studying nuclear engineering, and when I was finishing my undergraduate course, I wanted to go abroad to see some foreign country, and since I'm studying nuclear engineering, I didn't have that many options, because in the world basically they do nuclear engineering seriously only in Japan, US and Russia, and from these three countries I somehow got to choose Japan. And then I spent 1 year here as an exchange student, and I got to know Japan. And then when I was thinking about what I want to do in my life, and especially where I want to live, then I just somehow realized that I probably want to live in Japan.
Okay, what about the differences between your city and Japan?
Yeah, I come from Brno, which is the second largest city.
Okay.
But I was studying my university in Prague, which is the capital of Czech Republic. And well, I think the biggest difference is, of course, the architecture. It's like the first thing which will hit your eyes, because Prague has already a lot of old buildings. Well, a lot of them are not actually old because they are renewed and so on, but there are things which are, say, 600, 700 years old. And in the downtown, basically all the buildings are like this. So, of course, it looks totally different from Tokyo. And the second difference, I would say, are tourists, because in Prague there are a lot of tourists, and therefore there are a lot of foreign people. Usually they cannot speak Czech, so they are trying to communicate somehow in English, German, Russian. So I think that's a big difference. When it comes to life, then, well, I think everything is much cheaper in Czech, but also the salaries are lower. So that makes difference when I come here and I go to shop and I'm calculating like, okay, how much for this piece of pork? And then when I do the math, I started thinking like, no, I don't want to buy it, it's too expensive. Seriously. But then I realized like, yeah, that's what it's in Japan. Everything is like 2-3 times more expensive. The advantage is that this usually applies only to food. When you talk about electronics or so on, the prices are about the same. So, like if a Japanese guy wants to buy a new laptop or a new smartphone or whatever, it's usually much cheaper for him than for a Czech guy.
How is your life as a student here compared to your lifestyle before?
Well, I actually try to make it the same as before in Europe, probably because I'm used to it and that's the type of life that I like. But as for now, I spend a lot of time doing sports, and part of that is commuting to school, because I live 15 kilometers away from my school, so every day I go on a bicycle there and back again, and it takes longer than if I went by train. Well, then I spend a lot of time cooking, I think, because I like to cook my own food for me. And the problem is that I'm not that experienced to make it quick. I think when like some experienced mother is cooking, then she already knows how to do everything, so she makes it really quick. I don't really know, so I'm like making it slowly, and it takes a lot of time. And then of course hanging out with my friends, which is not regularly, but when I compare it, it takes a lot of time, because it's maybe once, twice a week, but I spend a lot of time with them. And usually when I say hanging out, I mean like sitting somewhere talking, maybe drinking something, but not necessarily, or going dancing somewhere. So I guess, or doing sports together, that's also a thing, I guess.
Okay. What are the differences between the classes here in Japan and the classes in Czech Republic. Also, after you finish your master's degree, what are your plans?
Okay, well, let me start with the classes first. So, I think the main difference is that as a master's student, I'm not required to take as many classes as I was in Czech. Because I already finished my master's course in Czech before I came here, and there we needed more than 100 credits to graduate. Here it's about 30. So that's a big difference. And on the other hand, you have higher requirements for your research. So when I write my master thesis, then the quality is supposed to be better. And then it reflects on the quality of the classes, because the classes here are usually just basic classes, or they don't go that deep, they don't use maths that much. The classes are much more about talking and you get a lot of information from the classes, but I think it's not that hard information, or how would I describe it? In Czech we did much more of computations, and we showed exactly, like, for example, if you have a reactor, this is what it looks like, and then inside the power is like this, and so on and so on. So I think here the classes are they are more entertaining, that's for sure, but I think they are not that useful as the classes I've taken in Czech, and also they are not that difficult to finish. But I think that's over in Japan. Once you get to university, you don't have that many problems finishing it, I guess. In Czech, if you get to university, it doesn't mean anything yet, because it's really easy to drop out from the university. So the classes are much more difficult, and the exams as well, and so on. As for my future plans, well, now I'm gonna drink.
Okay, yeah, go ahead.
And if you look further to the future, then what I see there is hopefully me getting my PhD here, and then after that finding a job here. I already have few ideas which companies or which area, or I mean area like what type of work, not the place, so where I want to work. But I haven't tried yet to apply or anything, so I will see. But my plan is that I want to start working here in Japan. I've heard a lot about Japanese working culture, and I mean the traditional Japanese working culture that we hear the scary stories about. Yeah. I think it's not for me. So I want to see. I want to go to the company and try it, and then I will decide based on what it will look like. But if for some reason I will decide to go abroad and to move, I don't know, wherever, then as for now I don't really mind. I want to try it here.
Okay. Okay. After coming to Japan, what image did you have about Japan, and did that image change?
Okay. Well, I think the image I had was kind of precise, but I mean it was not that specific, the image I had, but in the things that I was thinking, I think I was quite right. So, but the reason is, for example, that one of my professors in my home university, he's done his postdoc research here in Japan, and I'm a very good friend with his son, who was my classmate, so I've heard a lot from him about what the life in Japan is like, and some stories about, I will just say one short story. When there's this guy on a train and he's sitting, and then suddenly a pregnant woman comes in and he wants to show her to his place, but she's really outraged that by letting her take his seat, it's like showing her that she's weak, that she's not strong enough to keep standing. So she's outraged by this, and I think this is not what is normal. It was some extreme, but still I got the image that, like, because of the Japanese culture, which I didn't know that much about, but I knew that there are some things like that. the history of the samurai and so on, then there are some huge differences. Because in Europe the culture is derived from the Judaism and from the Christianity, and not that much from traditions and so on. So I think this was like the image I had, and this is actually how I found Japan, that there are a lot of things which are really traditional here. No one thinks that much like why they are doing things like that and so on. I must say I was surprised by one thing, because I ride a bicycle a lot, and when I see other people riding bicycle, then I really think that there's something weird, because they don't care about the law at all. Okay, it's like that when you ride in a bicycle, you can shoot someone, and the police would not care, because since you're on a bicycle, then you can break the law as you can do whatever you want. Because seriously, it's like changing the lanes, and I think if you think about it, and then you realize, oh, I've actually seen this guy on a bicycle and he was doing this, and I think it's not really a good thing to do, it's not very safe, and so on. So I think that's a nice contrast together with how Japanese usually follow the rules and so on, and then give them a bicycle and
Lost.
Yes.
Okay. What do you think about the social rules? For example, here there are some social rules like women should get married before they're 30, or men should work for long hours. How about in Czech Republic? Are there any social rules that people have to follow, or is it more free?
So, important thing here is that Czech Republic is a post-communist country. So we had a communism, and it affected a lot our modern culture as it is right now. And I'm not sure about the numbers, but I think that right now in Czech Republic the divorce rate, for example, is about 50%, which is maybe even more. I'm not really sure, but it's really high. Okay, the fertility rate is also low, same as in Japan. But I could talk a long time about the fertility rate and the difference between why is it low in Japan and why is it low in Czech. Let's say just that in Czech, even though people get married and they are in relationships together, they just want to avoid having babies. And so there are a lot of things like that, and because of the communism it became normal, for example, for women to work. And I think that almost all the women work in Czech somehow. Of course, if you have more children, then, or if your husband is very rich, then you don't have to work, you can stay at home and take care of the home. But usually the women don't feel obliged to stay at home, but they are much more like, okay, I don't have to work, so I will go out with friends, I will do a lot of shopping, I will do some sport and so on. So that's a big difference. I'm not sure if it goes for the Western Europe as well. I think it might. But when it comes to the role of women and men in the society, then in Czech, well, of course, still you have to, if you want to have children, then you have to, the women have to become mothers, right? You cannot do it any other way. And the men have to become fathers. And I think there's one difference from Japan is that in Czech the men are much more macho, and that's also how their role in the family is perceived. So it's not that much about being a role model, about being working long and bringing home a lot of money, but it's much more about being strong, having strong opinions, and then you can be drunk, you can do whatever. Actually, the traditional picture of Czech family, the modern Czech family, is like that by 11 p.m. the woman is going to, the wife is going to a pub to pick up her husband who got drunk there, and then they have this not that sweet exchange when she's dragging him home, but after all they still know that there is some love hidden behind it.
How about a message for the people thinking about coming to Japan to study? What would you tell them?
I think it's not that easy, but I think Well, I guess that the main message depends where are you from, but at least as it was for me, the main message would be that don't be afraid, because it might look difficult. It might look difficult with doing all the paperwork and so on, but it's actually much more easier than you think it is. And I think that it doesn't go only for the paperwork and for how to get to Japan, but also for how to live here. Because once you get here, then you might think before that it's very difficult, and there are the Japanese language everywhere. You cannot understand the thing. It's actually not that difficult, because you can quickly learn some ways how to live here, and it's not that bad. So I would say, like I said, don't be afraid, because it's much easier than you think it is.
Okay.
What is your favorite thing about Japan and the thing you hate the most about Japan?
I see. Well, it's actually connected.
Okay.
Well, what I really love about Japan is the kindness of people here, and I think it's really nice that if I live here, then a lot of the Japanese people they want to help me often, and they will come out and try to help me if I need it, or if I ask. So I think that's really nice thing about Japan. On the other hand, the thing I hate the most is as far as I can tell, they don't do it because of their feelings or so on. They are just doing it because that's how they were taught, or maybe because they think that we want people to think good about our country, about Japan. But there is no personal feeling hidden behind it. You know? So it's not because they want to be our friends, it's not because they want to come and get close to you, it's just because they somehow feel obliged to do this.
So it's like fake.
I would not say fake, but I would just say that the reason they have for doing this is not as good as the reason that we usually have in Europe for doing those things.
Okay.
On the other hand, we are not that kind to each other in Europe, so...
Right.
Okay, so thank you very much for coming to do this interview. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for the invitation.